What's your favorite scary movie?
Be like, I'm dying.
If some guy came up to me and said, "Hey, they guys," I'm like, "It's over and done. We're married now."
Someone in the movie, so I'm like, kiss. But
oh God, what a sea of humanity.
Welcome back, all of my slasher friends and newcomers. Feels like I was just here yesterday. I was here yesterday. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of 52/1994. A little bit of a delay on this episode, but that's just because of travel and vacations and everything not really working out. August is crazy, and it just feels like it's getting crazier, and it's almost over. But welcome in, everybody, to 52/1994. It's a live movie conversation podcast where we're talking about movies from the year 1994. I'm your host, Cody, and I'm joined by my co-host this week, Alyssa. I feel like we've seen you a couple times in the most recent, or in the months.
yeah, I've been around a little bit. It's cool.
Yeah, you're a popular one on here. If this is your first time joining us, welcome in. We are happy for you to join us today. Just to give you a little bit of a background on what we're doing, we're talking about 52 movies from the year 1994. Important movies that are released this year, and we typically do these in monthly categories. Sometimes they're a lot funnier and more fun categories than what this one is. This one's just comedies. I think that's where we're sitting at with this. And a lot of times it doesn't matter if they're good movies or bad movies. Most of the time these are middle of the road movies. So I have a guest host to talk about the movie, and then I interview them and see if they have watched anything recently, or if they're reading anything or listening to anything. Those are all interesting. And always somebody asks in the chat what I'm playing on my VCR behind me and my TV behind me. I don't have Priscilla. I don't even have movies related to Priscilla. And the best I could do in the background with what few VHS movies I have, because I'm not trying to get crazy with them, is Tootsie with Dustin Hoffman. So I don't think I have Some Like It Hot. That might have been appropriate too, but yeah. Welcome back. You've been traveling. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm here. I'm a little tired, but we're gonna do great.
Well, I hope so. You're doing great. You're gonna be awesome. You're always on. You turn it on whenever you need it to be on.
I am nothing if not a performer.
That's right. So we're talking about The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert this week. I believe this is a movie that neither you or I have seen.
Correct.
So with that in mind, what's your first impressions of this movie?
This was a blast. This was this was a lot of fun. I gave my Letterboxd review, I said if I had a nickel for all the movies I watched this year that came out in 1994, were set in Australia, and had a big ABBA lip sync number in them, I'd have 2 nickels because we watched both Muriel's Wedding and Priscilla here, and these are very fun, and this was a very fun movie.
Was a very fun movie. It's interesting that Muriel's Wedding had the ultra ABBA love in it, and it was kind of a joke in this movie. I thought that was kind of fun. Like, don't you fucking play ABBA.
He's like, enough with the ABBA. And I'm like, give me all the ABBA.
Give it all to me. Australia and ABBA just kind of go together, like Australia and Vegemite, or
I guess
other things. Australia.
I need to know what was with the resurgence of ABBA in 1994. Like, how did that happen?
I don't know. It might be worth looking. I mean, and it's not like, because when we talked about Muriel's Wedding, they had to reach out to ABBA and basically show up at their doorstep to be like, hey, I want your music in my movie. I didn't read anything about them having to beg too much for this, the rights to this movie. And I think they came out pretty close to one another too. So
yeah. Well, they only had one song in this movie, and it wasn't the whole movie.
That's right. I guess that's true. Muriel's Wedding, it's like 10 different songs of ABBA.
It is a plot point in Muriel's Wedding.
Yeah.
It is the engine that gets that thing going.
It's just a joke in this movie. So,
Yeah.
and of course it's Dancing Queen, which I think is everybody's favorite. Let's see. Anything else that you want to say? I mean, I know that this is a genre of movie that doesn't happen quite often. I feel like, other than like comedy road trip movie, but like there's a lot of stuff in here that aren't popular now in like the world, like popular. I mean,
Yeah.
but definitely in 1994, this is kind of a.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll talk about it later, I'm sure, but yeah, this movie was very fun. But I was also like pleasantly surprised by how progressive it was for being like very Bernadette being trans was never the butt of the joke. I mean, it was. I mean, but not in a way that was like distasteful. And I was like, wow, this is really progressive for 1994. And then some other things happened in the movie that were less than progressive, and we'll discuss that later. But yeah, and we like road trip movie is fun. Who doesn't love a road trip movie? But yeah, to have drag queens be at the center of it. And this is the first. It's and again, we'll talk about it later, I'm sure. But there's another movie that is almost identical to this one that comes out less than a year later. That I actually have seen. So it's like who was coming, like, again, where's with these like overlaps, and like, with this movie and Muriel's Wedding, there's the ABBA overlap, and then this movie and with To Wong Fu, like there's like a road trip drag queen movie. I'm like, how did we get 2 road trip drag queen movies in the mid 90s?
Yeah, and I haven't seen To Wong Fu. I'd love to get your comparison of it, and like how you feel about both of those. I know you've shared that with me a little bit, but for everybody else, we'll get there. So, okay, so let's go ahead and break this movie down, give you all the stats around it. Again, this movie is called The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. Long title, not a big deal. Date that it came out was August 10th, 1994, so it did come out in August. It was directed and written by Stephen Elliott. Also, he really didn't do that many movies after this. There were only about 7 to his name since this point. None really that popular. I think Eye of the Beholder, starring Ewan McGregor and Ashley Judd, might be his most mainstream movie out there, other than this one. And then there was another Australian movie called Welcome to Whoop Whoop, which is not about juggalos. So sorry to disappoint people with that. This movie stars Terrence Stamp as Bernadette, Hugo Weaving as Anthony, or Tick, as he's called, or Mitzi Delbras, Guy Pearce as Adam Whiteley, and also known as Felicia Jolly Goodfellow. Bill Hunter, who we've seen previously in Muriel's Wedding, as Bob, and Sarah Chadwick as Marion Barber, who is Tick's wife. In the movie, there are other people in this movie, of course, but those are probably the main ones that we've got to talk about. Give me a synopsis on this. When drag queen Anthony agrees to take his act on the road, he invites fellow crossdresser Adam. Don't love all the words here that are being used, but this is from Google, so it's, we can't help it. And transsexual Bernadette to come along. In their colorful bus named Priscilla, the 3 performers travel across the Australian desert, performing for enthusiastic crowds and homophobic locals. But when the other two performers learn the truth about why Anthony took the job, it threatens their act and their friendship. Yeah, that's fine. This movie had a budget of $2 million, and it made $29.7 million. So
that's impressive.
That is impressive for a little Australian movie to come out and do those kind of numbers. Is pretty impressive.
And 1.5 of the budget definitely went to costumes. So.
Oh yeah. I wonder if the rest of it went to Terrence Stamp. He's like at this point the only other like big actor in this movie. Terrence Stamp's pretty big deal. This movie, Rotten Tomatoes gave it 94%, one of the higher ones we've had this year. IMDb has it at 7.5 out of 10. Letterboxd is sitting there at a 3.9. Roger Ebert was a little iffy on this movie. He said, I guess the scenes of homophobic hostility in the movie are obligatory, but the writer-director Stephen Elliott doesn't seem to have his heart in them, and I wonder if he would have been happy to make the whole story as lighthearted as his best scenes. Roger Ebert gave it 2.5 out of 4 stars. Janet Maslin of New York Times loved this movie, and she said The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert presents a defiant culture clash in generous, warmly entertaining ways. For all its glitter, this is the sort of film in which everyone becomes happier and nicer by the final reel. So I like that. Legacy behind this, we already kind of mentioned the costuming around this. This actually won the Academy Award for Best Costume Design, rightfully so, at the 1995 Academy Awards. And also, this is a bit of fun fact. If you didn't know it, I'm sure you might have. But in April of this year, Stephen Elliott announced that he was working on a sequel with the original main cast reprising their roles.
I did not know that. That is very exciting.
Very exciting, especially like I love to see an older Tick. I love to see older Felicia, definitely. Terrence Stamp is always old to me, so it'll be interesting to see that. Thankfully, everybody's still alive from this. Maybe not Bob. I don't know where Bob's doing right now, but yeah. All right. So, anything that I might have missed, legacy-wise, or anything like that?
Nope. I think that's good. I do want to add, and I think I should throw this out to you before we're recording, but I think we should add a new segment called like the best reviews that we found on Letterboxd, because I was just scrolling for so long. But the first one I saw was that this like quote, Priscilla was the bus is the gay version of Frankenstein isn't the monster. And I was like, that's very good. So that's all I wanted to add.
No, that's good. I like that. I like that. So everybody be on watch. We'll get on your Letterboxd accounts and find those good reviews. I know a lot of us are comment people. Like we love to go to a video, but we love to see a comment on those videos. So that's your new assignments. All right, let's talk about some of the scenes of this movie and break it down even further and get to some of the stuff that I know we want to talk about. So let's talk about best scenes in this movie. I'll go to you. Start with you.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I pushed forward pretty fast. Like I'm pretty far into the movie with my first scene because it kind of started off a little slow. I mean, it was fun, but it was a little slow. But the first scene that I have is them riding in the bus and the bus breaking down. Because during that bus ride, we are learning about the characters, we are getting their personalities, learning about their background, and then the main plot point is that the bus breaks down, which we all saw that coming from a mile away.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of where I started. Do you have anything that came before that? Because there is quite a bit that comes before.
So I think the first scene that I had in this was the first town that they went to, which I think is before this, before the bus breaks down. Out in the middle of nowhere. I think the town is called Broken Hill. Okay. And that's the first time that they kind of encounter hatred. Yeah. I think this is when no, it's not when they dress up in the flip-flop
the
dress.
Iconic flip-flop dress.
That flip-flop dress. It might have been that town. Because there are two towns that this happens in, or that they encounter some homophobia, people that don't want them there, and I think that town, while it's not like something that sticks out, I guess for the rest of them, or is like an important plot point, because I think the other town is more important to the plot point, to the plots than anything else. But this is the first time that they find a hotel, they perform and aren't even asked to perform in front of all these people, and get kind of shit on for doing their stuff there. I think we get a lot more of Felicia and Bernadette going at each other in this and hating each other. I don't think we know about the son just yet, but we do know that, like, they don't know about the son and everything, but they're shacked up in that hotel and having fun, and then they kind of just run out of town, and they wake up to see the the no AIDS fuckers or whatever it says on their bus
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
that. So
Gotcha.
that's basically the breakdown I give there. But the only reason I bring that up is because that story actually gets a happier ending with some of my fun facts later.
Okay.
This specific community, Broken Hill,
Mhm.
because it is seen in Australia. That place is pretty close to exactly how it was there. A lot of hatred, a lot of homophobia, a lot of people that did not like drag performers or didn't like trans people, stuff like that.
This is where they go to the bar and they just get schmammered.
Yes.
Okay, now I was getting them a little mixed because it got a little mixed up. But yeah, that was very funny. Is like Bernadette and that woman going shot for shot, and that lady just falling over.
Yeah.
And they just 3 sheets to the wind. It is very fun.
Yeah, so I like that scene. I think you get a lot of the personality of our 3 main people in this. And I think it sets you up for like, okay, we're going across Australia and we're going across, and this is going to be like if you were going cross country from California to New York or something like that and broke down. And I don't want to name any of the middle American states. We'll say Missouri. That's an easy one to shit on. Yeah, this would be like them getting stopped off in Missouri.
Yes.
And meeting some people. So
Mm-hmm.
now we'll go with yours, because I think that the next one is leads into mine as well. So
yeah, so yeah, we're on the bus, we're having fun, we're learning more about the characters. I think we do at this point maybe learn that Tick is married and has a wife, and that's the person who has set up the gig that they are going to perform at it, wherever, how far away they are. So they're a little upset with him about that. I think it's just because they were keeping a secret from them. But it also, I was like, that seems a little like overreaction, but whatever. So bus breaks down. Bernadette is like, I'm going to go try to find help. Finds a couple, and they like drive off very quickly because they're like, we don't want to help these 3 people who are dressed in women's clothing. And they run into a group of Aboriginal people and perform for them, and they take them in for the night, help them out, and get them to the next town where we eventually work on getting the bus fixed. But that was a very fun, like, performing in the desert scene, and it was like nice that they had some kindness shown to them. And it was a very fun, that was my favorite performance, is them performing in the desert for the Aboriginal people.
Same, very much the same. Did you feel, because I've had this question ever since I watched this, it was like, did you feel like Tick and that Aboriginal guy are kind of had something?
I didn't know if I put it with Tick specifically, but I think that Aboriginal guy was really interested in what they were doing. Like, I think maybe he was like, oh, these are, these 3 drag queens, I'm interested in this, and maybe I'm more similar to them than maybe my friends know about. And they dressed him up eventually and put him in drag too. And that was a lot of fun. I didn't really think of them like having a romantic moment, but I did kind of have a moment of like, oh, this dude's gay.
Yeah, no, they gave each other a look. It was like less than 2 seconds. And it was this one look, and I was like, that's going to come back. That's going to be a thing. And then it's never talked about again.
Or see him again.
Yeah, we never see these people again. I like that this scene. I think this is arguably one of my favorite scenes in this movie too. I also think it's interesting, anytime that you compare like minority groups, and especially like Australia, Aboriginal people are, not looked fondly at, especially at this time, and a lot of time. It's very similar to how Black people in America feel, and these people are almost like more like indigenous people here in the United States, where they're kind of just left to their own we're going to put them on reservations, and they're going to be their own. That's kind of how, as far as I understand, Aboriginal people in Australia are treated. So it was kind of, I liked that they got to experience this party together, and
it didn't it didn't feel like, again, this group was being made fun of, or like that they were being poked at, or like you looked upon negatively. Like it's kind of like the Good Samaritan story, but
Mhm.
they help them out and they have fun and it's a good time and they're safe. And yeah, it's fun. It just feels fun. It doesn't feel like it was forced. It doesn't feel, and it also doesn't feel like anyone was being shit on.
Right. And I think that I don't know. I don't have anything else, I guess, to say about the party. It leads to like the next scene after we get the Aboriginal people, is like I think Bernadette going off into the desert, right? And like trying to find people, or does that happen right before?
Was beforehand because
Okay.
the next, yeah, that was who they found first. Because I think the Aboriginal man takes them to Bob.
That's right.
It was a little hazy because I was like, wait, how did we get to this second town? How did we get to this guy Bob's house? And I was like, I kind of got lost there for a minute. I don't know if I just like stopped paying attention for a second, but I think that's how it went.
Yeah, I think you're okay. That sounds right now. I like that the whole scene leading up to the Aboriginal people, Bernadette going out into the desert, just wandering the desert, and then randomly gets
Very
two people with a kangaroo in the back, a dead kangaroo in the back seat with Bernadette. Yeah, that was wild. And then when they show up to the to see Felicia and Mitzi in their gear, they speed off. And
Mitzi's in this massive green gown, and Felicia just saying, "I told you, green is not your color." As they drive off.
but then we get to Bob, and that and Bob from Muriel's wedding, the dad from Muriel's wedding, playing a very different role in this movie. I think kind of the complete opposite person, honestly. We love Bob. We stand Bob. What's your next scene?
Well, my next scene is meeting Bob and getting the bus fixed. So we learn a little bit about Bob. There is another performance in a bar that we can skip over for the time being. But we meet Bob. We learn about Bob. There's another bar performance, and Felicia decides that she wants to get a little crazy, take a little bit of drugs, and go out and party. And she is met with this is the scene I'm assuming Roger Ebert is referring to, met with a lot of homophobia as she tries to hit on presumably a straight man, and needs to be rescued because she's a little out of it.
Yeah, that was actually my very next scene that I had, was the Felicia taking drugs and getting on and instigating too, and kind of knowing, I mean, not that she can't do that, but it felt like she was like, this is what I'm gonna do tonight.
Oh yeah. And like you're like, she was like, maybe I get lucky, because I think even at some point Bernadette was like, we're gonna lay low, we're just gonna go get dinner, we're gonna hang out in the hotel room, like this is not the town that we want to be messing around in. And Felicia's kind of like, you can't tell me what to do. And it's not personal to Bernadette, but Felicia's gonna do what Felicia wants to do. She's a fun time.
I do think that part of it is because Felicia, like, because of that, like, back and forth between Felicia and Bernadette the whole time, that she's just like, I'm young, I'm free, you're old, you're, you don't even know what you're talking about. Your name's Ralph. Like, let it be.
I thought that was a very interesting plot point as well, is that they continue to bring up Bernadette's dead name. And I'm just like, damn, like that shit doesn't change, man. In 2024. Like, just
it's interesting though that it is brought up to be not just like dead naming somebody, but I don't feel like at that time that was seen, it wasn't played that way, like, oh, I'm bringing up your dead name. It's, I'm bringing up your name and it's Ralph. Not that there's anything wrong with the Ralph, but like, I felt like the comedy was more about the name and not like the dead naming part of it.
I think
for like broader audiences, I'm saying.
Yeah, like, oh yeah, the Ralph bit is funny because the name Ralph is funny. My dad's name's Ralph. But I mean, Bernadette like beats the shit out of her like later. She's like, never bring up that fucking name again. And I'm like, oh, like good. Like I'm like, that was a example of like, hey, this is a big deal when you dead name somebody. Like obviously
Yeah.
language that we were using in 1994, but I still I liked that was part of it. And like it kind of shows Felicia's immaturity too. Like she just wants to fuck with Bernadette.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, what's your next one?
Oh, so my next scene is so the bus is fixed and we are arriving at our destination to have the big drag performance that they were commissioned for at the very beginning. The whole reason why they were driving cross country. Mitzi / Tick / Anthony reunites with his wife. They have like a nice reunion. They like definitely have a friendship vibe. And they arrive at the hotel, and then this is when the other two learn that he also has a son. And they're like, what the hell? But you can see like Tick is struggling with one, he's not been involved in his son's life for the 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, I think around that. He seems like he's 8 or 8 somewhere.
Yeah, since he's been born, since the kid's been born, he has not been around, and this is the first time meeting him, first time interacting with him, and he is very I don't want to say insecure, but he's very scared that his son is going to know, quote unquote, what he is or who he is, that being a drag queen. And it's there, but that's so we get that meeting and we get those moments and we get more from the son later. But I thought that like just kind of seeing Tick struggle was the actor did a great job in the, and then of course we get the big performance with the goose hats that were my absolute favorite.
No, I love that. I love the way that they approach it, and I think, I mean, with him finding out that he has a son and the fact that that he does have a son, he's not only hiding the fact that he is a drag queen, he's also hiding the fact that he's gay or queer, because we learned earlier in the movie that he's like, we don't know, and that's cool, because
he's like, he just found out that Mitzi's batting for both teams, and he's like, no, I'm not. And it's like, oh, so you're gay? Well, I don't know. Oh, so you're straight? Well, I don't know. Then what are you? I don't know. And it's nice. That he's queer.
Yes. And I think that's an interesting like turn in this movie. I think the fact that Tick has a relationship with this mother is an interesting turn to something that has definitely never been seen in a movie before, where it seems like lesbian woman and essentially gay man get together, have a child, get married, have a child, and both seem to love one another just as much, even though they've been apart for however long. And hey, you've got a kid, and I still love you, and all this stuff. So
the friendship, they have a genuine friendship that they didn't get to talk for a long time, but they met back up. And it was interesting as I'm watching the movie, like I immediately was like, oh, he married a lesbian woman because I'm like, gay marriage is illegal, very illegal at this time. My ice machine is on. I forgot to turn it off. But it took me a second to remember, oh yeah, gay people can't get married. And if they want to have children, they got to do it the old fashioned way, which is pretending to be straight. And, but I thought it was interesting that Felicia and Bernadette, but Felicia specifically, that did not register to her until later when it was revealed maybe it was Felicia or even, he's like, you know what your dad is? And he's like, yeah, he's a drag queen. I know about the ABBA show. And he's like, you want to go play with Legos? Like, he don't give a shit. This kid doesn't care. And then later, and this is my next scene, is when the child, I can't remember what his name is, but he's talking to Tick. And he's like, Mom used to have a girlfriend, but they broke up. Do you have a boyfriend? Like, it's so cute and so sweet, but it's like I don't think that, you know, they didn't like Bernadette and Felicia didn't realize it's like, hey, we did what we had to do. I didn't just marry someone for shits and gigs and abandon her. Like we had a relationship for a reason, and we're still good friends. And now I have this son, and it's really exciting for me. And yeah, they I feel like they were kind of harsh on him.
Yeah,
for no
I agree. But at the end of the movie, when they're all there in Alice Springs at the resort or whatever, I do feel like we finally come full circle in a lot of these things. Like you see Felicia, Adam playing with the child like every chance they get. And I think that kind of goes towards like a little bit of me also wondered if there was supposed to be a relationship building between Mitzi and Felicia over this trip too, even though like they're good friends. I got a little bit of a vibe from them being, you know, a couple as well. Obviously that didn't work out or turn out, or that wasn't part of this, but it felt like it. And it felt like Felicia was accepting of this child like right away, and was hanging out with it. But that also lends towards like Felicia's kind of immaturity. And
that's what I assumed, is that like Felicia's childlike, this is an actual child, they form a bond. And it was Felicia too, who was like, Bernadette was way more understanding, still kind of like thrown off, but way more understanding about Mitzi having a wife and kid. And yeah, Felicia was like almost like mad.
Yeah. And I wonder if she thought like it was I guess if he thought it was like a betrayal to what they are or who they are and what they've been doing, and not realizing that, you know, there is something beyond this. And again, I think that goes towards Adam's immaturity, and maybe he is just like living life and living large and just trying to get by, and doesn't realize, oh, I could have a family. Oh, I could do these things, even though there are certain ways that you have to have these families. So I liked Adam, and I liked Adam / Felicia, whatever, and his growth toward throughout the entire movie, because I do think that he has a lot that comes at him. Like he gets himself in trouble in that town, and he has to deal with Bernadette and being such a dick to Bernadette. And then also learning about his best friend having a child, and like all of this coming at him. And I feel like he has to grow up pretty quickly on this trip. Now, I love that interaction between Tick and his son, though.
Yes, that was my final scene, is their interaction. Yeah, and because the mom's like, listen, I've been with this kid for 8 years. Like, I need a vacation. You're going to go live with your dad for the summer. Is basically what. And it's like, oh, we have to spend a bunch of time together. And Tick is, again, really struggling with his own sexuality, his own career, and hoping that his son isn't going to bring the same homophobia that he has met for the last hour and a half of this movie. And for his son to just be like, yeah, do you have a boyfriend? Like, you should have a boyfriend. And that's kind of a full circle moment from the beginning of the movie, where Felicia was like making fun of Tick for not dating. Like, hey, you don't really have relationships. You're just a spinster or whatever. And then when they find out that he's married, they're like, well, that's why you're not dating anybody, because you're freaking married. And then it's like, well, no, it's just that he clearly is struggling with his sexuality and who he is, what he is, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. And they even make fun of him at the end of the movie for like butching it up in trying to be more masculine in front of his son at the end. And I think there's a little bit of that, like, not only is he wanting to shield his son from his own sexuality, but also doesn't want to like I think there's a little bit of like not wanting to inflict damage onto this child. Like, I don't want him to go through what I've been through, so I'm going to try and be this masculine man so that he has it, the proper way that you raise a child or whatever it is, so he doesn't have to go through all the stuff that they went through. There's a little bit of that in there, and I think like the maturity of the boy is just like huge, like just so excited. And like, good job, mom, on that too. Like, you kicked ass, because this kid's awesome. And like,
so cute.
Yeah. And just as like, I love that ending scene when they're doing the ABBA show and the kid is on like the light guy's shoulders, like, yeah, or I loved that and how excited he was to see his dad like that. I love that. Love that ending.
I love when, like, earlier he's like, I know about the ABBA show. I'm not supposed to know about the ABBA show. Like a cute little 8-year-old kid who like knows, like, he's not like as if the ABBA show is like some R-rated thing, but
Yeah, it's just insane. But what a great ending to this movie. And I love the way this movie ends with, Bernadette staying in Alice Springs and going on that job and kind of finding her new phase in life too, as she's lost her partner that we learned early in the movie. With that partner that she lost, I think she even talks about it a little bit, but like she loved him, but it was more about like not being alone, I feel like, than about like truly being in love, because I felt like the love between the three people and the three on the bus was probably a lot stronger than just this marriage or whatever that Bernadette had with Trumpet. I think that's what his name was.
yeah, found family.
Yeah, definitely a found family film. And I would love to see an update on all of these people's lives and see where they're at in this. So
Yes.
what else sticks out? I mean, I know we've got some other things that we're both going to cover in some of the crazier scenes, but
I have like images. The costumes were incredible in this movie.
Which one's your favorite?
I'm not sure. I loved the goose hat in the final, but I also love the Sydney, Australia, the Opera House building that they form, but I think Mitzi's Midsommar floral crown in the desert was wild. Or just the big silver dress off the. I
was about to say I love the one where Felicia is on the top of the van and it's like flowing behind them. I love that one. No, I love the ending scene when there's like 3 or 4 different costume changes in that end, like not the end performance.
I have to say too, they're awful. Like the 3 actors, that is some of the worst drag performances I have ever seen. And I am not the only one who thinks that. That is like they're not good at drag. It is very fun. It's funny, but like Mitzi looks like she's in pain constantly. Bernadette has 0 facial expressions, and Felicia can't lip sync. And I'm like, it is genuinely some of the worst drag performances I have ever seen. Had a great time. They were very fun. And the costumes are what made it, but like it was bad.
Poor Bernadette. I felt like that was like a 90-year-old just like slowly moving the entire time. Hugo Weaving was the best out of the 3. That's Mitzi. But his eyebrows are so like angular and scary.
And he would like almost like grit his teeth. Like
he's just scary. And then him in drag is just frightening. Yeah.
I just like, there's like his face is like in my head, and I'm like, I just imagine him just killing Pink Pony Club.
I would love to see it. Did better drag as Elrond. That's true. He looked a lot prettier there than he did in this movie. Yes, that's another fun thing about this. Like all the guys in this movie that are playing the 3 main parts are like notorious villains in other movies that they've been in. A lot of them have been in like Marvel films as villains. Hugo Weaving is Mr. Smith from the Matrix. Terrence Stamp is General Zod from the Superman films. So like all these people are like really evil. And I thought it was very interesting to see them in such light, fun roles for once. So I liked it. But yeah, you're right. The drag sucked in this movie. But you can only do so much. It's like, do I hire drag queens who aren't actors, or do I hire actors and make them drag queens? And that, I'm sure we might get to that whenever we're talking about our recast, because that's what I was going to bring up. I was like, I had a really tough time. Like, oh, I know some drag queens, but I'm like, would they be good in this? Because I've seen some drag queens in some movies, especially some of my favorites, and they are not great actors.
Yeah. And I had that same thought, and I was like, I want to cast, like, if there is a gay role in a movie, I want it to be played by a gay actor. Like, I am very adamant about that. However, in this movie in particular, and I see like the comment in the chat, like, they're not good at drag. They would never make it on Drag Race. And bless you.
Thank you.
They would never make it on Drag Race. They would never, they would last 5 seconds. RuPaul would tear them to shreds. But it's like part of like the sweetness of it, I feel like, is having these, like you said, villainous men play these roles. So when we talk about recast, we'll get into that. But I agree. I would, in this movie only, I would rather have actors who are not drag queens play drag queens. Would much prefer that they would be gay, but if they
I think that is what I kind of went with as well. Is like, if you have gay actors, they should, if they have gay parts, they should be played by gay actors. I mean,
yes,
just makes sense. So we'll get to it. I'm eager to hear who you've cast in this, because I was thinking about it. I was like, oh, Alyssa would cast that person. I don't want to put that person.
Oh no, I think you should lower your expectations.
I really don't think you're going to put Jonathan Bailey in all of these films, are you?
I did not pick Jonathan Bailey at all, because again, he would be too good.
I expected Jonathan Bailey to show up, so I'm glad that you chose some different ones. Let's move forward. Who was your favorite character? If was there a scene stealer to you?
Bernadette.
Okay.
My favorite. She was so funny. I also, like, I obviously know that the actor is not a gay or trans person. I believed it. I fully believed it. I don't know if it was because, I don't know if he had a wig or if he actually grew out his hair. Like, I just fully believed the character, and I loved her so much. She was so fucking funny, and everything she did, I was just like, yes, fantastic. Keep going.
Yeah. And the actor does end up getting nominated for several other awards, not the Academy Awards or anything for it. But yeah, Bernadette's a great character. I chose Felicia, obviously, from my name. I fucking loved Felicia. She was everything that I expect from somebody that does drag. After watching some, I'm not a professional. I've just seen some Drag Race stuff, but no, she fits the part in that. Like, if she would last at least 2 or 3 weeks just on reading people alone. Yeah, just there's like one drag queen from Drag Race that I cannot think of what their name was, but terrible drag queen. But she was on the show twice because people liked her so much.
Miss Van.
No, it was like an S name. She was a terrible drag queen. She couldn't sew. She couldn't. Shangela. Yeah.
With the stars.
Yes, Shangela, great actor. She's been in many things. She was in A Star Is Born. Like I said, she was on Community. She's done many other things, but like that first season that she was on there, couldn't sew, couldn't lip sync. Everybody was like, what the hell are you doing here? I can see your 5 o'clock shadow through the makeup. You're terrible at this. Move on. Shangela is awesome. And Shangela reminds me of Felicity or Felicia. Sorry, Felicity. Felicia. No, love Felicia. She's my favorite. Mm-hmm. But they're all great. All right, favorite quotes. We probably have some that are going to overlap here. So
yeah, I have a handful.
I try not to go crazy too.
Well, I have the iconic Felicia line when she goes to the movie rental store, and she goes, "Do you have the Texas Chainsaw mascara?" My really bad Australian accent.
Mascara.
The Texas Chainsaw mascara.
Do you know why the microphone has such a long cord? So it's easily retrieved after I've shoved it up your ass. That's a Felicia line that I was just like, yes,
Amazing.
own it.
Felicia like says like her goal is to like rock climb and stand on the top of one of these mountains and drag. And Bernadette's response to that is, that's just what this country needs, a cock in a frock on a rock.
I love that line. Such a good line. Such a good line. Bernadette, I've said it before and I'll say it again. No more fucking ABBA. We already kind of talked about that one.
There was, before she said that, there was, Bernadette says, no, I'll join this conversation on the proviso that we stop bitching about people, talking about wigs, dresses, bust sizes, penises, drugs, nightclubs, and bloody ABBA. And Tick responds, doesn't give us much to talk about then, does it?
This might be my favorite line and would love to use this later in life. Oh, for goodness sakes, get down off that crucifix. Someone needs the wood. I fucking love that line, and I will use that in real life at some point.
I love it. I've got one more. It's another Bernadette quote, and she's, they're at the bar and they're talking to that woman who's like being homophobic towards them, the one that he drinks under the table, or she drinks under the table. And Bernadette says, now listen here, you mullet. Why don't you just light your tampon and blow your box apart? Because it's the only bang you're ever gonna get, sweetheart.
Damn.
I was like, ah! I was like, it's amazing.
I've got two more. One is Tick to Felicia. He says, is it true that when you were born, the doctor turned around and slapped your mother? Great. And then Bernadette, this one's not a funny line or anything, but I did find it interesting. Bernadette's talking to Felicia. He says, it's funny. She says, it's funny. We all sit around mindlessly slagging off that vile stinkhole of a city, talking about Sydney. But in its own strange way, it takes care of us. I don't know if that ugly wall of suburbia has been put there to stop them getting in or us getting out. Come on, don't let it drag you down. Let it toughen you up. I can only fight because I've learned to. Being a man one day and a woman the next isn't an easy thing to do. And that's that final scene with like Bernadette and Felicia like hating each other. And this is after Bernadette's, saved Felicia from getting the shit kicked out of her. So I did like that though, in talking about like their city and how it really is like, protecting them, even though they, still get shit on there, but it's not as bad as what it is out here. Also wanted to bring up that where they're traveling from Sydney to Alice Springs is a 28-hour drive nonstop if you go there. So they are, several days on this journey in the middle of nowhere, because there's a lot of middle of nowhere in Australia.
Yeah.
So any other quotes that we're missing? Chat, feel free to chime in if you've got any more quotes that you'd like us to say, or ones that we missed, but I think we covered some good ones. Mm-hmm. Biggest laugh, cry, scare, or thrill?
So I just, for laugh, I said every performance is a laugh just because of the costumes and the facial expressions. Like, I can't get over these costumes. They were so great. I love the music. I love the dancing. I love the lip syncing. It was egregious, but it was so good. It was camp. This is camp. If anyone's like, I don't know what camp is, this is camp.
Yeah. I even love the ending ABBA song, and like it was very reminiscent of Muriel and her friend when they're doing the like face. It was so good. I loved it all. Also, how did you feel about like the interstitials, like the like flashbacks and stuff?
The one of Bernadette I liked. Mm-hmm. The one of Felicia, I was very concerned and like genuine. I was like, what the fuck is about to happen? And then it didn't happen, and it just gave Felicia more personality, and it cuts back to them laughing about the entire situation. And I was like, Oh, like on the one hand, I'm like, I feel like we're perpetuating a negative stereotype that people are only queer because they were abused as children. And I was like, don't like that.
But I thought it turned, but I was expecting that. And then it turned it on itself. Like, yes, that's an awful fucking thing that was about to transpire and everything. But I fucking loved it because he was just like, he pulls the plug and gets his uncle's balls stuck in there. And I was like, it took that out of my mind where I was like, oh, this stereotype is like, yep, that's there. But like, Felicia wasn't having any of that. That wasn't Felicia's life.
Right. I love that it's like, this is Felicia's personality here. But it was genuinely like, there were multiple times in this movie where I was just like just very afraid of what was going to happen next.
And there were times that I get with that. Like, I feel that whether it was the town, whenever Felicia is gonna, does her whatever she does to piss off those guys. I was genuinely scared. I was scared in that other moment, that flashback moment. Anytime that something like that was about to happen. Thank God for Bill's wife, which brings up our next next segment. Most what the fuck ridiculous moment.
This might take the cake for any scene that we have seen this year. Like when we do our superlatives at the end of the year, I will vote for this as the most what the fuck scene.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen this movie, then you don't know what we're talking about. If you have seen this movie, you knew exactly what we were talking about. And it is the Bill's wife taking over the performance in their town and doing a ping pong ball trick that is just terrifying.
The whole thing is very racist.
Oh, it's super racist.
Like, for a movie that is so progressive about gender and sexuality, and I was like very quickly reminded that this was 1994.
Yeah. It's just, I mean, it's one of those things that exists. Not the ping pong balls. I don't think that exists. I don't know. I don't know anatomy enough to where I think that this is all possible. I don't know. It's joked. This is parodied in South Park 5 years later, in their movie. But like the white guy, the Asian wife. That's a real thing. I see you. A lot of guys went over for war or were stationed in some of these Asian countries, these South Asian countries, and this is what happened. But yes, it's just like super cringy, as the kids would say.
The case here, the case is that, like, in theory, like what was implied is that she got Bob drunk. They got married that night. He woke up in the morning and she's like, I'm your wife. And he says, yeah, and then that was like the flashback. And then it comes back as, she thought she was marrying somebody from Sydney, but joke's on her. She got some dude in the middle of nowhere. And it's like, that's like for like a green card type of situation. I was like, that is horrific. This is horrific.
But like the other two don't know, like they even say like, order a wife or a mail order bride thing. They thought it was a mail order bride situation. But yeah, the ping pong ball scene is awful, but it's something that she's done before because everybody in that crowd loves it.
Yes, that she is. They're like, Bob's like, she's been banned from the bar. And then I'm like, I don't think she was banned from the bar. The bar seems to be pretty happy with her performance. I think you are asking her to not go to the bar.
I think it's hilarious though. Like, okay, yes, this is the most egregious scene. It's one of the craziest things we've seen all year. But when she's like, you expect that lock that she's getting ready to pick, and there's going to be just tons of alcohol up there that she's not allowed to get to, and then just ping pong balls fall all over the place. And you're like, what could this possibly be?
Yeah.
And then we get to see it. I think she brought her own costume too.
Yes, that little zebra print situation, that was the actress's. Good for her.
If you find something you're good at, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life, you know?
Have have like one other what the fuck and more like it. I think we can constitute as a laugh. But Felicia's most prized possession is a turd.
I forgot all about the turd.
The ABBA turd. And he stole one of the women from ABBA's poop and put it in a jar and carries it around with him, and that is his most prized possession.
I forgot all about the ABBA turd.
Ow.
This movie's insane. No, that wins. That's up there. But yeah, that's just crazy. All right, best music moment.
My favorite was "I Will Survive in the Desert."
That was mine too. And I was thinking that you might have picked the ABBA song at the end. But no, "I Will Survive" was the best.
It was. The performance was the best. The didgeridoo was great. Like all the whole bit. I loved the costume. I loved all of it.
Yeah. And I like that one too, because we get to see them setting up for it, or like them practicing it before, and then who they perform for with the Aboriginal people. It's just great. No, I love that. Okay, best. Oh yes, we're gonna do Fuck, Marry, Kill. We have an obvious trio here. So it's Felicia, Bernadette, and Mitzi.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I don't know who to pick. I am stuck. Because I think I want to marry Mitzi.
Okay.
Like, because I like, he's sweet, like, has the, he has loyalty, fatherly figure, like, and stability. He seems like the most level-headed of everybody. Anthony / Mitzi. I think I would marry Mitzi. But then that leaves me stuck because Adam annoys the shit out of me. I love him, but I don't, and I'm sure he would be a good lay. But but Bernadette's my favorite, and I don't want to kill Bernadette, but I also don't want to have sex with Bernadette. I think I have to kill Bernadette.
Wow.
I
am very surprised with your results here.
I'm surprised too. I'm surprised too because I'm very torn. I'm very torn. I want to kill Felicia, but I think I have to kill Bernadette.
Oof. Wow.
I'm very sad about this.
You are. This is eating you up inside. We've got some people say that you should kill Felicia and flip a coin on the other two.
That's, I mean.
I love Felicia. That's my F. Hands down. I don't want to be around them any more than I have to. But she's a good time.
Yeah, but that's why I'm like, and Bernadette's my favorite.
I thought I was gonna kill Tick, and then and marry Bernadette, because Bernadette looks like she's kind of got some money. And so if I marry her and she dies, then I'll inherit that.
She is the oldest as well.
She is the wisest.
The wisest.
She is the wisest. I could have some good conversations about that. But Tick, you're right. Like, I don't know. Tick's got a kid. That's a lot to bring into a relationship.
I'd be a great stepmom.
I'm killing that. I'm killing Tick. Mitzi's the sweetest. Okay, we got somebody saying Mitzi's the sweetest. No, Mitzi is pretty good. I love seeing. No way you're getting in there with Bob. You would have to deal with Bob if you're dealing with Bernadette.
If we kill Bernadette, then she is reunited with Trumpet.
But did she love Trumpet?
I think so. A little bit. We don't have enough information.
Somebody said Bob's invited.
Oh.
Let's just get crazy on this bus. And okay, I'm gonna marry Tick.
Convinced.
You've got me. But because Tick comes with Marion. So you get like, hey, it's a whole family here. It's a family affair. If I was dealing with Bernadette, I would have to have Bob in there too. There's just a lot going on with Bob.
I'm glad we talked about this.
Bob might expect something that I just can't do.
I want to say too, I mean, like, we didn't really touch on it, but like, I love Bob's character like, we love Bob, we stand Bob, but like, not homophobic, actually is a fan of drag. Like, he was saying, oh, I used to watch the showgirls in this particular group, and then they're like, Bernadette was an original, and he's like, no way. Like, it was very fun and unexpected, and obviously there's a romance there that doesn't really bloom but kind of blooms, and I very much love that.
I loved Bob. I'm curious how he ended up in that hotel room with his wife, though. Like, well, I know you get drunk, and all this stuff.
Drugs,
I guess. Okay. You've convinced me. I get it. If you guys want to see Lay Girls Cabaret, it is still a thing, by the way, I think.
Nice.
It's also a musical from the 50s. But I don't think it has anything to do with what we're talking about here. Okay, so we've moved on. We've done our F, Marry, Kill. Who gave the best performance in your mind?
I said the three queens. I think all three of them gave a hell of a performance. Again, three straight men did a very good job of not making caricatures. I mean, Felicia was borderline, but not making caricatures of their characters, took their roles very seriously. I loved them all for different reasons. Mm-hmm. I will lean more heavily on Bernadette too, just because, again, very difficult role to play, especially for someone who's typically playing a villain. But I think all three of the queens did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I love Terrence Stamp and what he did with the character of Bernadette. Like you said, treated it very well and took it very seriously. And I think there's a lot of help with the writing of this movie and that character, making a fully fleshed trans character in 1994 is amazing.
Yeah.
And I thought Terrence Stamp nailed it. I would love to. At the end of the year, we'll talk about like best performances and all that stuff. I'm curious to see. We know that I think Tom Hanks wins this year for Forrest Gump, but like, what else is out there? And or even like supporting role, you could probably nominate Terrence Stamp in a supporting role, and I'd be curious to see who they go up against, because this was a good performance. Mm-hmm. Seriously. All right, let's do a recast now. Do you have anybody for 94 before I move on? The only person that came to mind when I was thinking of 94, and before I wrote it down, before I even went through IMDb and looked at, okay, here's all the people that were supposed to be this person. And it was Rupert Everett. And Rupert Everett, it's hard to explain if you haven't seen him in any other movies, but he's Julia Roberts' best friend in My Best Friend's Wedding. He is also Dr. Claw in the Inspector Gadget movie with with Matthew Broderick. Those are not his only two things. He's done a lot of like Shakespeare stuff. I know he was in an adaptation of Midsummer Night's Dream. I thought he would have been great Mitzi. And he's also gay, so would have actually been the part. So I don't know if he was out then or not, but he was in it. All right, 2024. Mel Gibson as Mitzi. Wow. 2024 recasting of this movie. I'm very curious.
I say lower your expectations. No, so I did cast a trans actress for Bernadette, because I do think that should be played by a trans actress. Mm-hmm. And it is Dominique Jackson. And that is because I am obsessed with her. She is one of the leads, but she's like the lead mother in the Pose series on Netflix. We've talked about Pose before. Mm-hmm. And it's a drama. It's about like the 80s, 90s underground Vogue scene in New York, also dealing with the AIDS crisis. There's one iconic scene that sticks out in my mind where she just like reads this woman to filth. But she's stunning, but two, she can do the drama, she can do the depth of Bernadette. So Dominique Jackson is who I cast as Bernadette.
Okay, perfect.
as I was talking about earlier, this is the only role that, like, the only movie I did not cast gay men. I did not cast drag queens because I was thinking, because I thought Katya would be a really fun tick.
I thought of Katya and
Trixie.
Trixie.
I love Trixie. Trixie is not a good actress. I am not putting Trixie in a movie. But I thought Katya would be like, in just for by like body and like facial, like I think looks kind of similar to Tick in drag. So but I actually cast Bill Hader as Tick.
They look I get that.
I went for looks specifically. I thought it was just kind of like, you know what? It would be fun to put, like, like we said earlier, this drag was not good. And I kind of like in terms of like almost like a reminiscence of the original cast, to cast straight men in the role. Again, that's not what I typically like to do, but for this particular instance, I think it would be fun. Also, we've talked about this, that everybody in Hollywood is too good looking. I need some less good looking people to be actors. So Bill Hader, I love Bill Hader, but Bill Hader's and then my Felicia is Glenn Powell.
Okay.
I was just thinking, who is a young, good looking man who's like super jacked?
And kind of an idiot.
Like Felicia is jacked.
Yeah.
And did have I never remember his name. It's not Henry Cavill, but there's this guy,
Henry Golding.
I love Henry Golding. Is he a gay man? Oh, I didn't think so. No, there is a guy who looks like Henry Cavill who is gay, and he is in
Matt Bomer.
Yes, he's in the second Magic Mike movie.
Yes, Matt Bomer. Yeah.
I did have him as Felicia as well, but Glenn Powell's like the hot guy right now. So
yeah, I like it. Those were good. I like the. I thought, okay, somebody brought up Zachary Quinto, and I thought of Zachary Quinto for the role of Mitzi. Zachary Quinto is Spock from the new Star Trek movies. Is a gay man as well. I think he'd be great as that. I didn't pick him, but that's because I just kind of went in different directions, I guess. For Bernadette, I chose Eddie Izzard, also known as Susie Izzard, a trans person that is very funny, is a known stand-up comedian. Yeah. And is older, could play that, older, wiser thing. And I think that would be great to see in this role. Mitzi gave me the most trouble, and I settled on Gerard Carmichael. If you know anything about Gerard Carmichael, he's another stand-up comedian. Came out a few years ago. He had his own show. He was in the Poor Things as well. Younger guy in his 30s, early 30s as well. And then for Felicia, this was my favorite one to cast. I picked Joel Kim Booster.
Yes.
Who is jacked out of his mind and is hilarious and would read everybody to filth.
Joel Kim Booster is a perfect cast. Oh,
that was my favorite one.
Or in other things, I love him. Oh my God, that's perfect.
Yeah, I thought he is the most perfect person for this, right? Because I was thinking of Bowen Yang. I was like, oh, I could put Bowen in this, and then I was like, no, Joel Kim Booster, better.
Bowen would be like a fun Mitzi, like
Yes.
I think wise, Bowen would do Mitzi very well, but looks wise, I guess it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be like a tall, lanky dude. Like it could be anyone.
No. It was fun. This one's a fun one to play with. I again, like Zachary Quinto is a good one. Neil Patrick Harris, great one to put in here. Whoever originated the role of Hedwig in The Angry Inch would be fantastic in this, playing a drag queen rock star. What's her face from Orange Is the New Black? Laverne Cox.
Mm-hmm.
That was who I immediately went to when I was thinking of Bernadette, because I was trying to find somebody older. And older trans people is very hard to find.
Yeah, I was gonna say because that's the immediate because she's the most famous trans actress,
Yeah.
but she's not old.
She's
Like,
not.
I immediately eliminated her. I was like, it doesn't make sense.
But then like Eddie Izzard fell into my lap and I was like, yes, that's too good.
Also, not that Dominique Jackson is old either, but
She's like 49 or
she
something like
plays
that.
older roles.
Yeah. The other person from Pose I was thinking about too. I can't remember what her name is. I think she won.
The one who won.
Yeah.
I never remember her name either, but she is great.
Yeah. Feel free to keep putting people that you'd like to see in this movie in the chat. We're going to move on to our fun facts section. What fun facts did you like from your studies?
I had a couple. I think we'll have some overlap. The famous flip-flop dress, which helped win the movie an Academy Award, cost only $7.
Pretty impressive.
It was made of flip-flops.
I think it is the iconic dress from this. So
it's so good. I would want that dress.
Absolutely. This is, as of 2024, I liked this one a lot. This is the most recent contemporary set film. That means non-period piece. It's not a fantasy film, not a sci-fi film, to win the Academy Award for Best Costume Design. I find that really interesting. But it is a common thing that we see. We see all these like old movies win, or like movies that are set in a Renaissance period or Elizabethan period that win these awards. So it's interesting.
Did The Age of Innocence win last year?
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah. All right. What else?
So according to the director, Stephen Elliott, he took the 3 leads out in drag prior to the beginning of filming. None of them were recognized. Guy Pearce took the opportunity to be outrageously rude on
brand.
Terrence Stamp eventually forgot he was in drag and started hitting on girls. Love that. And Hugo Weaving got super drunk and lay under a table for hours, tapping his finger in time to the music. This last detail was incorporated into the film in the hotel room scene.
Love that. Love that for all of them.
Method acting.
So when I mentioned that town earlier, Broken Hill, the town of Broken Hill is where the characters first encounter the homophobia, and they paint on their bus and everything. And at the time, that was pretty real life. But after the film, it has established its own annual drag festival in that town, and that has a parade that passes by the hotel that they stayed in. So a little growth after that movie.
That's all I got.
Bill Hunter, Bob, was filming Muriel's wedding and Priscilla at the same time, and required him to have different length hair, beard, and to be in different parts of the country. So good for him. Tim Curry turned down the role of Mitzi.
He turned it down. I heard he was considered, but I didn't know he turned it down.
Turned it down.
I would have killed to see this. But I wonder why he turned it down.
Yeah. I mean, he's also another one that's like another villain too. Like a guy that's been a villain in many things before. Like, that's interesting. Why are villains drag queens?
Ursula,
ultimate drag queen.
Ursula is based on a famous drag queen.
Is based on the famous drag queen, Divine, which we love Divine. All 3 main characters have played comic book movie villains. Terrence Stamp was Zod, Hugo Weaving was Red Skull in Captain America, and Guy Pearce was Killian in Iron Man 3. So interesting stuff there. And Hugo Weaving's character was based on a real life drag queen named Cindy Pastel, who, like the character, had a son and a female companion. So
cool.
Yeah. That's all the fun facts I went through. There were a lot on there. So if you have some time, go through, do your own research and look up some of that stuff. It is pretty cool. My favorite part of all the questions that I asked, like a fine wine and dish, if you could pair this movie with another movie for a double feature, what would you choose?
So I think we've mentioned almost all of them. My one dark horse is Dumb and Dumber because just because it's a road trip movie, and the way that the queens encounter different types of people along the way. There's Dumb and Dumber do that as well. Muriel's Wedding is another obvious one. Again, 1994, both include Bill / Bob. A lot of ABBA references, Australian. There's a lot of similarities, parallel ideas happening. So that's a good one. And they're both I mean, those are both my personality movies. I want rom-com, I want drag, I want ABBA. that is my
That's all you want in life.
all I want.
I love it.
And then the last one, which we briefly mentioned and I want to talk about for a little bit, is To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, which again, another movie with a long title. But so To Wong Fu came out in 1995, and you have not seen it.
I have not.
I watched it last year with Tori. I think it was last year. It is identical to this movie. And when it came out, it got a ton of backlash because people were like, this is just a direct ripoff of Priscilla. But they were already in production before Priscilla even came out. So it's kind of like when No Strings Attached and Friends with Benefits came out in the same year with the same plot. It's just one of those parallel ideas movies, but it's a trio of drag queens on a road trip, facing homophobia and also dressing in outrageous outfits and performing. Literally, it is so similar. For me, I was thinking about this. I was like, which one do I like better? I think I like To Wong Fu better. I don't know if it's because I saw it first, that type of bias. I don't know if it's because it's Patrick Swayze and John Leguizamo and Wesley Snipes as the characters.
People that you know.
People that I know. Also, and even like it's similar. Like the John Leguizamo character is Felicia.
Yeah.
The lead, Patrick Swayze's character is more like a Bernadette, but as opposed to being the Mitzi, but is the lead. It's also, I think it's a little more lighthearted than, well, no, I don't want to say that. There's a little bit of there's a little more romance in To Wong Fu. There's a lot more of like camaraderie with the town that they are like kind of hiding out in and trying to like dodge this sketchy cop who's trying to arrest them for being who they are and also try to assault Patrick Swayze.
A question for you. Are they in drag the entire time or are they do we ever see them out of drag?
No. And that is one thing that I would say is a fault of that movie is that if we're using an outdated term, they would maybe fall under I think the three characters of To Wong Fu would be more of a cross-dresser or trans.
Right.
That's because they are in drag constantly. They call each other by their drag names constantly. There is no breakdown in the way that Priscilla has, and Priscilla's way more realistic because drag queens are not in drag all the time. Now, of course, Bernadette is Bernadette all the time. But we keep saying Anthony / Tick / Mitzi, Adam / Felicia. Like the name, like Patrick Swayze is Vita the entire time. Not typical for a drag queen.
And they're probably less drag, right? Because like even their makeup, they are just, like you said, more cross-dressed, more trans than anything.
John Leguizamo's character is like kind of outrageous and someone could potentially say slightly racist in terms of like the outfits and the look and the hair and the everything. But no, like the other two are just kind of, I mean, their outfits are loud, but they are not drag. They are not the Midsummer crown that Mitzi's wearing. They're just regular outfits that people would wear if they were getting dressed up for a day.
Yeah. So, okay. I still want to see it. I've always wanted to see this movie, mostly because of the three main actors in it. Who doesn't want to see a movie with Patrick Swayze and Wesley Snipes and John Leguizamo in drag?
And I will say, like, also did the roles justice. Like, they, again, did not treat it like a joke, did not, like, they were not the butts of jokes. Like, they took their roles very seriously, and I thought they did a really good job.
Yeah. Okay. Those are some good ones. Some ones I'll add to this and is the Birdcage.
Yeah.
Kinky Boots is another one I would add to this. That's a fun one. Some other ones that I have not personally seen, but I did want to give mention to. One is a documentary called Paris is Burning. Ryan actually told me about this. It is like the drag documentary. Everything that, like all the cool slang and stuff that people are using comes from this documentary. It's like I can't even remember when it came out. But it is supposedly, it's a 1990 documentary about drag in New York at the time and the club scene. And so it is supposed to be an essential viewing of drag culture. So to check that out. There's also this movie, and the only reason I picked this is because one, it's a trans character, and two, it's about a trans woman going across the country to find a son that she didn't know she had. And it's called Trans America. I think it came out in the early 2000s, starring Felicity Huffman as the person. It doesn't have a trans lead actor in it, but it is a woman playing a trans woman. So that it has against it, but similar storyline there. So
Cool.
Anything else? Any music? We should just another ABBA soundtrack. Just play ABBA when watching this.
Just play ABBA. There was a what's it called? Who's the Village People? There's a Village People song there. That was a fun one. It's just so good.
It's good. It's great. All right, if you had to give this movie a rewatchability rating of 1 through 5, what would you rate it?
I'd give it a 5. I'd watch it again.
Nice. I said a 4. It's not like something that I'm like, yeah, let's do it like right now, right after. Okay. Overall star rating, if you had to give it out of 5, 1 out of 5.
My overall was a 3.5. Because I think it's just because I just like Tu Wong Fu, and I'm pretty sure I gave Tu Wong Fu a 4.
Nice.
So I was like, I like that one better. And this had its, I genuinely, I think the racism threw it off a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun. It was also insane. And I also don't think the drag was very good.
But not all drag is amazing.
No, you're right. I mean, we live in Cincinnati.
I was about to say, I was like,
we've seen some great performers, and we have seen others.
But they're trying, and that's in.
Yes,
they're doing their thing.
Darker is my favorite Cincinnati drag queen, with also the best name. But I just like the other movie a little bit better, and that's kind of what led my rating. But I still loved this movie. I had a blast.
I gave it 4 stars.
Wow.
Yeah. I think if past the ping pong ball and the Bill's wife thing, I looked past it enough. I really liked how they could have made this a darker movie and chose not to in those moments and pulled themselves out of the dark very quickly. I really liked it. I felt like it was super lighthearted. I love the way it ended. I thought it was perfect kind of in the ending and how they sealed everything up. No, I really liked this movie. I thought this movie was good. Definitely in one of my favorites of the year that we've seen so far. So, well, that's it for us, and that's all. But I always like to end on movie recommendations of something that maybe you've recently watched, if you have watched anything, or maybe something that you've listened to or a podcast or something that you want to mention. So is there anything that you want to pump up or promote?
I unfortunately have not been doing much. You talked about Take the Lead last week, and that's a movie that I forced you to watch. I've been watching a lot of House Hunters. That's where my MO is at currently, watching a lot of House Hunters. But I kind of don't have anything else. I'm sorry.
Did you know that the trans actress that you mentioned earlier was in an episode of House Hunters?
No.
Fun fact for you.
Going to watch
immediately go for that right now. Well, I think I kind of nailed everything what I have been watching. I just started Fight Club today, so I'll probably finish that for some reason. I just saw that it was streaming, so I was like, let's go for it. So I'm watching Fight Club today. All Our next movie, though, is called The Ref. It is a Christmas comedy, R-rated movie starring Kevin Spacey, not great, and Dennis Leary, also not like the worst person ever, but not the best person. And I think it's only streaming on VOD, so you'll have to check that out wherever you can. And we'll see you at Sunday at 6 p.m. So we're going to do an hour later than we normally do on Sunday because I have a stupid fantasy football draft. So other than that, that's been 52/1994. I'm really thankful for all of you out there and so glad that you participated in chat and watched this movie. Thank you, Alyssa, for watching this movie. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and just be cool to each other, I guess. Bye.